No one in the Obsidian Citadel dared to touch the Dragon King's child. Not the generals. Not the priests. Not even the queen's attendants. The young prince lay at the center of the chamber on a slab of rune-carved stone. Small for a dragon, barely the size of a carriage, his crimson scales dull, his wings limp, his golden eyes half-lidded with pain. Prince Caryx, heir to the dragon throne. Immobilized, broken, and surrounded by fear, Dragon King Vortharion stood like a living mountain at the edge of the chamber. His horns scraped the vaulted ceiling. Fire rolled beneath his scales, but his claws trembled. "Again!" he commanded. The healers obeyed, chanting, burning incense, pouring molten magic into the runes. Caryx screamed, a sharp, helpless sound. Vortharion flinched. Nothing worked. The curse that bound the prince's body, laid by an ancient rival, locked his muscles, his wings, even his fire. He could breathe, he could feel, but he could not move. "He will never fly," one elder said softly. "The curse is absolute." The chamber went silent. The Dragon King's roar shattered pillars. When the echoes faded, no one noticed the human maid standing near the doorway. She was new, barely acknowledged, a cleaner of ash and blood. Her name was Alara. She had been ordered to mop the chamber floor after the healers were done. She watched the prince tremble. She watched the king bleed fire from his clenched jaws, and something in her chest twisted painfully. "He's cold," she whispered. Every dragon head snapped toward her. Vortharion's eyes locked onto Alara. "You," he growled. "Explain yourself before I burn you." Alara swallowed, but she did not run. "I clean nurseries," she said quietly. "I've held sick children. When they stop moving, they get cold." She gestured to the prince. "No one is touching him. He's alone." The chamber erupted. "A human dares. She is prey. She will be incinerated." Vortharion raised one claw. Silence. He stared at his son, at the way Caryx's tail lay limp, at the shallow, uneven breaths, then back at the human maid. "What would you do?" the king asked. Alara's hands shook. "I would pick him up." Gasps echoed like thunder. "No one touches the prince," a general roared. Alara looked up at the Dragon King, not with defiance, with fear and honesty. "He's scared," she said, "and so are you." For a moment, Vortharion considered killing her. Instead, he stepped aside. "Do it," he said. The chamber froze. Alara walked toward the stone slab. Every instinct screamed at her to stop. She didn't. She reached the prince, hesitated, then gently slid her arms beneath his neck and chest, avoiding the wings, supporting his weight like she would a human child. Caryx gasped. Then, he relaxed. Alara sat down on the stone floor, cradling the dragon prince against her chest. She hummed, a simple tune, one her mother used to sing. Caryx's breathing evened, his claws unclenched. A faint warmth spread through his scales. "What is happening?" a healer whispered. Vortharion stared. He felt it. The curse didn't break, but it loosened. Not with magic, with comfort. Alara adjusted her grip, careful, instinctive. "It's okay," she murmured to the prince. "You're safe. I've got you." Caryx's eyes, golden, ancient, dragonborn, met hers. And for the first time since the curse took hold, he purred, a low, rumbling sound that shook the citadel. The Dragon King's breath hitched. No healer had ever made his son purr. No spell, no fire, only a human maid. Vortharion slowly lowered himself to the floor. His massive head bowed. "What are you?" he asked softly. Alara looked up, startled. "I'm just someone who didn't want him to be alone." The Dragon King closed his eyes, and in that moment, something ancient and unyielding inside him changed forever. The Obsidian Citadel had never known silence like this. Not the reverent quiet of a coronation. Not the tense stillness before war. This was something else. A stunned, breath-held silence, as a human maid cradled the Dragon King's son in the center of the throne chamber. Alara's arms ached. Caryx was heavier than he looked, dense with bone and latent fire, but she did not shift him. She felt the rise and fall of his chest, the fragile rhythm of a life everyone else had failed to save. Vortharion watched every breath. Caryx's tail twitched. Just once. A tiny movement, so small no spell should have noticed it. But every dragon in the chamber did. He moved. Someone whispered. That's impossible. The healers rushed forward, eyes glowing with magic. Runes flared. The curse markings along Caryx's limbs pulsed, then dimmed. Not broken, but disturbed. Elara frowned. He's warm now, she said quietly. That's good, right? Vortharion swallowed fire. The eldest healer, Archvisage Drathan, stepped closer, studying the fading runes. This curse is not merely binding, he said slowly. It is parasitic. The Dragon King snarled. Speak clearly. It feeds on isolation, Drathan continued. On fear. On abandonment. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Elara looked down at the prince. So when he's alone, it gets stronger? Drathan nodded, shaken. Yes. Vortharion's claws dug into the obsidian floor. They had surrounded Caryx with guards, magic, fire. But not touch. Not comfort. Elara brushed her thumb gently along Caryx's neck. Instinctive, soothing. I used to do this when the little ones cried, she said. You don't tell them to be brave. You don't threaten the fear away. She hummed again. The curse sigils flickered. Another twitch. This time Caryx's wing shifted barely an inch. The chamber erupted. She's weakening it. No, she's interfering. This is blasphemy. Vortharion roared. Silence snapped back into place. Continue, he said to Elara. Her eyes widened. My king. Hold my son, he said. As long as he needs. Hours passed. Elara did not leave. Her legs went numb. Her arms trembled. But she stayed. When Caryx whimpered, she whispered nonsense words. When his fire flared painfully beneath his scales, she shifted to cool him. When exhaustion took her, she leaned against the stone and let him rest against her heartbeat. And the curse retreated, not fleeing, confused. It had never faced a human who did not fear dragons. As dawn's glow filtered through the citadel's high windows, Caryx's eyes opened fully, clear, focused. He looked around at the dragons, the healers, the throne, then up at Elara. Warm, he rasped, voice small and hoarse. Elara laughed softly, tears in her eyes. Yes, you are. Caryx shifted, slowly, painfully, but on his own. Vortharion's breath caught. Father? The prince whispered. The Dragon King collapsed to one knee. The court stared in disbelief. The heir had spoken, not because of magic, not because of power, because a human maid had dared to do what dragons never had. Hold him. Vortharion rose slowly and approached Elara. He bowed, a full bow. To you, he said, voice trembling. My son lives. Elara froze. I didn't mean. You did everything, the king said. He turned to the court. From this moment, Vortharion declared, Elara is under my protection. Any who harm her answer to me. A murmur spread, fear, awe, disbelief. Elara looked down at Caryx. He smiled faintly and curled his claw around her sleeve. The obsidian citadel did not sleep. Word spread faster than fire through dry wind. The dragon prince had spoken. A human maid held him. The curse had weakened, and not everyone was pleased. By morning, the dragon court was divided. She is manipulating him, one noble hissed. Humans are clever prey, another snarled. Remove her, and the curse will return. Prove it. Elara felt the stares like heat on her skin as she walked beside the prince's resting platform. Caryx lay supported by cushions and runes now, but his head rested against her thigh, by his own choice. His claw still held her sleeve. Vortharion stood between Elara and the court like a living wall, but even he could feel it. Fear disguised as pride. They feared what she represented. Caryx stirred. I want to try, he said. Every sound died. Vortharion turned sharply. Try what, my son? Carrick swallowed. To stand. The healers panicked. No! The curse! It could rebound. Alara felt his grip tighten. Will you help me? Carrick asked her quietly. She didn't look at the king. Didn't look at the court. She looked at the child who had been alone for too long. Yes, she said. But slowly. Alara slid to her feet carefully, positioning herself in front of Carrick's. She placed one arm under his chest, the other bracing his shoulder. Lean on me, she said. The court erupted in outrage. You dare make the heir lean on a human? He should be supported by dragonsteel, by magic. Vortharion raised his claw. Enough! Carrick's pushed. His legs trembled violently. The curse flared, dark runes crawling along his limbs like chains. He cried out. Alara did not let go. It's okay, she whispered. I've got you. If you fall, we fall together. The words struck the chamber harder than any roar. The runes hesitated. Not gone, but uncertain. Carrick's feet touched the stone. For one heartbeat, he stood. The chamber exploded into chaos. He's standing. Impossible. The curse. Look at the curse. The runes flickered violently, then receded an inch. Carrick gasped, legs giving out. Alara went down with him, knees hitting the floor hard, but she shielded his fall, holding his head to her chest. I'm here, she murmured. You did amazing. The Dragon King stared, not at his son, at her. Vortharion approached slowly, kneeling beside them. You risked yourself, he said to Alara. Why? She met his gaze, no fear, no ambition. Because he's a child, she said simply. And children shouldn't face pain alone. The words cut deeper than any blade. Vortharion remembered ancient days. His own hatching, pushed to fly too soon, taught strength before safety. He bowed his head. We taught power, the king said quietly. But you taught care. A noble stepped forward, scales gleaming with malice. This is weakness, he declared. The heir depends on prey. Remove her, and he will be strong again. Carrick lifted his head. His voice shook, but it carried. If you touch her, he said, I will burn you myself, curse or not. Silence. The court froze. The heir had chosen. Alara helped Carrick sit up again. He was exhausted, shaking, but smiling. I stood, he whispered. Yes, she said softly. You did. Vortharion straightened, fire rolling beneath his scales. Not in rage, but resolve. Let it be known, he thundered. Alara is no longer a maid. The court leaned forward. She is keeper of the air. Gasps echoed like thunder. As Alara brushed Carrick's brow, the runes dimmed once more. Not defeated, but losing ground. Because curses understood power. But they did not understand love. The curse did not scream when it realized it was dying. Tightened. Black runes flared across Prince Carrick's limbs, crawling up his spine like living chains. The air in the obsidian citadel grew heavy, oppressive, thick with ancient malice. Carrick cried out. Alara wrapped her arms around him instantly, pulling his head to her chest. I'm here, she whispered. I won't let go. The dragon court panicked. The curse is reacting. It's trying to reclaim him. Separate them now. Vortharion felt something twist inside his chest. For centuries, he had ruled through fire, fear, and unbreakable will. But now his son was screaming. And the only thing holding him together was a human. Archizage Drathan stepped forward, voice shaking. This curse was not forged to break bones, he said. It was forged to break heirs. The court fell silent. It was designed long ago, the Archizage continued, to ensure dragon rulers would raise their children in strength alone. No comfort, no softness, no weakness. Drathan looked at Alara. It feeds on isolation, on proving that love makes rulers fragile. Vortharion's breath hitched. This curse was not an accident. It was dragon-made. The runes tightened again. Carrick's claws dug into the stone. I can't, he gasped. It hurts. Alara pressed her forehead to his. "You don't have to be strong," she said fiercely. "You just have to stay." The curse faltered, not weakened by magic, but confused. Humans were never meant to be here. Humans were never meant to matter. And yet, a human heart was unraveling something dragons had perfected over millennia. Vortharion stepped forward. Every eye turned to him. The Dragon King lowered himself and knelt. A sound like the world cracking echoed through the citadel. "I was taught," Vortharion said slowly, "that a ruler must never show weakness, that love dulls the flame." He looked at his son, at my child, then at Alara. "And I was wrong." The curse shuddered. Vortharion placed his massive claw over Carix and Alara, gentle, protective. "My son," he said, voice breaking, "you are not alone. Not now. Not ever again." The runes screamed, not aloud but in sensation. They writhed, flared, then shattered like glass. A wave of heat exploded outward, knocking dragons back. But Alara and Carix were untouched, wrapped in the king's shadow. Carix gasped. Then, he moved. Not a twitch, not a stumble. He stood, fully, unaided. The curse was gone. Gone because it could not survive something it was never designed to face. A ruler who chose love over fear. Carix spread his wings. They did not tremble. Fire sparked at his throat, bright, controlled, alive. He looked down at Alara and smiled, truly smiled. "I did it," he said. She laughed through tears. "You did." Vortharion bowed his head to them both. The Dragon King turned to the nobles. "Let this be remembered," he thundered. "Not as the day my son was cursed, but as the day dragons learned from humans." The nobles lowered their heads. No one argued. No one dared. Alara stood beside the prince as the court bowed. She was no mage, no warrior, no chosen one. She was a human who refused to let a child be alone. And that was enough to change an empire. From that day on, Carix ruled with strength and compassion. Dragon hatchlings were raised with warmth, not isolation. And humans were no longer prey but partners. Alara remained at Carix's side, not beneath him, beside him, and the Dragon King, once feared across worlds, was remembered for one thing above all else. He learned when to kneel. Years later, the world remembered the curse, but it remembered this day more. The great conclave of ash and sky had not been called in over 1,000 cycles. Dragons from every flight, obsidian, crimson, frost-veined, storm-winged, circled the obsidian citadel, their shadows covering mountains and seas. At the center of it all stood Prince Carix, no longer a broken child. He was tall now, broad-winged. His scales burned with steady, disciplined fire, not wild, not cruel. Beside him stood Alara, still human, still small, still unarmored. And yet, no dragon dared challenge her presence. An ancient dragon lord stepped forward, his voice like grinding stone. "Why are humans here?" he demanded. "They are fragile, short-lived, weak." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the skies. Carix did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked at Alara. She met his gaze and nodded once. Then the Dragon Prince spoke. "Because when I could not stand," he said, voice carrying across the clouds, "they did not abandon me." The dragons shifted uneasily. When magic failed, Carix continued, when strength failed, when fire failed, a human stayed. At Carix's signal, a massive stone platform rose from the citadel floor. Upon it lay a newly hatched dragonling, small, trembling, wings twisted by birth. A familiar fear stirred among the elders. "It will never fly," someone muttered. Alara stepped forward before anyone could stop her. She knelt. She lifted the hatchling gently into her arms. The dragonling chirped and relaxed. Carix watched closely. The elders watched closer. Slowly, impossibly, the hatchling's wings loosened. His breathing steadied. His fire sparked, tiny, but real. A healer gasped. "It's the same effect," he whispered. "The same as the curse reversal." The ancient dragon lord stared. "You're saying," he rumbled, "humans are stabilizers?" Carix's eyes burned bright. "They are anchors." The conclave fell silent. For the first time in dragon history, the question was not how to rule, but how to live. Vortharion, older now, stepped forward beside his son. "We taught ourselves that love was weakness," the Dragon King said. "That solitude made us strong." He looked down at Alara. "We were wrong." Then, before all flights, all skies, all history, the Dragon King bowed, not to another dragon, but to humanity. That day, the pact of flame and hand was forged. Humans would raise dragon hatchlings alongside their own children. Dragons would stand as guardians, not overlords of human worlds. No dragon child would ever be left alone again. Alara was named first keeper of the flame bond, a role no dragon could claim, only a human. Humans did not defeat dragons in battle. They did not outmatch their fire. They did not outlive their empires. They did something far more dangerous. They changed how dragons raised their children. And once you change the future generation, you change everything. At sunset, Alara stood on a high balcony overlooking the sky. Carix joined her, wings folded peacefully. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked softly. "Picking me up?" She smiled. "No," she said. "It was easy." He laughed quietly. "It changed the galaxy." Alara shrugged. "Sometimes, holding someone is enough." Above them, dragons and humans flew together for the first time, not as ruler and subject, not as predator and prey, but as family.